looking like 10 over 10 plus 10 minus nothing. Add everything. That's me.
On October 21st, 2022, the body of a woman was found floating in the waters off Reading, St. James. She was later identified as 35-year-old Aneka Townsend, known online as Slickianna. The discovery raised immediate questions about where she had been, who she was with, and how her final hours unfolded. Investigators traced her movements to the night before. Townsend had traveled from Kingston to Montego Bay on October 20th. That evening, she met with Man, visited a restaurant in Hanover, and later went to a guest house in St. James. The timeline placed her alive late that night. By morning, she was dead. A post-mortem confirmed she had been strangled, but the exact sequence of events remained uncertain. Attention quickly turned to a primary suspect. Arrests were made, charges were filed, and the case entered the court system. Yet progress was slow. Missing forensic reports and repeated adjournments delayed hearings for months, keeping the case unresolved. Each new court date raised the same question. When would answers be given? The investigation extended beyond one individual. Others were linked to the case, accused not of killing her, but of withholding information. Their roles became part of the wider inquiry as prosecutors worked to build a file. Before the trial could move forward, a major development changed the direction of the case entirely. The death of the accused left the legal process incomplete, with only secondary charges still before the court. Stay with us as we unravel this shocking story and uncover the heartbreaking details of what led to this senseless loss. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from? And what are your thoughts as the story unfolds? Welcome to True Crime Tales, where we reveal the crimes that shock communities and the secrets hidden behind closed doors. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's begin. Aneka Townsend was born and raised in Jamaica. She was widely known within her community and family by affectionate nicknames such as Kyan and Dumpling. Beyond her online presence, she maintained close family ties as a mother, a daughter, and a niece. Her most significant role was that of a mother to her young son, who she left behind at the time of her death. She balanced her public image with entrepreneurial efforts, establishing herself as an independent woman navigating both family responsibilities and business ventures. Townsend's upbringing and life in Jamaica positioned her within a culture that valued family connections, while also giving her the space to build a distinct identity in the digital era. Outside of her personal circle, Aneka Townsend built a strong digital presence under the name Slickianna. On Instagram and TikTok, she gained a substantial following. Her content primarily revolved around fashion and beauty, which made her a recognizable figure across Jamaican social media spaces. She showcased outfits, beauty products, and her distinctive style. Her outspoken personality also drew attention. Followers admired her ability to present herself with confidence, and she cultivated an image of glamour and independence. She became known for her bold choices in visual presentation, often setting trends or sparking discussions among her audience. By late 2022, Townsend was recognized not only as an influencer, but also as a figure who contributed to the Jamaican online fashion and beauty scene. Her persona combined her everyday life with aspirational elements, keeping her in constant engagement with her followers. The sequence of her final days can be tracked with precision. On October 18, 2022, Townsend celebrated her mother's birthday, marking a family occasion that she attended. On October 19th, she spent time visiting relatives, including an aunt she had not seen in years. That day, she also had her last recorded conversation with her mother, maintaining regular communication with family. On October 20th, she made travel arrangements and left Kingston for Montego Bay. This trip was confirmed through various accounts and was part of the timeline investigators later reconstructed to understand her final movements. The evening of October 20th holds significance as it marked the beginning of her final documented activities. At approximately 7:30 p.m., Townsend was picked up in Montego Bay by a man later identified as Rushane Chizzie Patterson, a 33-year-old from Hanover. From there, the two proceeded to a restaurant in Hanover. Surveillance records, witness accounts, and police reports later confirmed this stop as part of the evening sequence. Following their time at the restaurant, both individuals traveled to a guest house located in St. James. This series of movements established the last verifiable trail of Townsend's presence alive, narrowing investigators' focus on Patterson and their activities that night. At the guest house, a confrontation reportedly occurred between Townsend and Patterson. The details of the dispute remain unspecified in official court filings, but what is known is that the confrontation escalated fatally. Townsend was strangled during the encounter. The autopsy conducted days later provided clarity on the cause of death. Medical examiners concluded that Townsend died of manual strangulation. The post-mortem examination also allowed investigators to narrow her time of death to a window between 11 p.m. on October 20th and 9 a.m. on October 21st. This time frame aligned with the last sightings of her in Patterson's company and the discovery of her body the following morning. October 18th, 2022. Townsend attends her mother's birthday celebration. October 19th, 2022. She visits relatives, including an aunt she had not seen in years. Has her final conversation with her mother. October 20th, 2022. She leaves Kingston and travels to Montego Bay. At 7:30 p.m., she is picked up by Rushane Chizzie Patterson. Both visit a restaurant in Hanover. They later go to a guest house in St. James. October 20th to 21st, 2022. A confrontation occurs inside the guest house. Townsend is strangled. Time of death estimated between late evening and early morning hours. The investigation into the death of Aneka Slickianna Townsend was launched immediately after her body was discovered on October 21st, 2022, off the coast of Reading in St. James, Jamaica. Law enforcement agencies, including the Police Marine Unit and crime scene investigators, began compiling evidence to determine both the cause of death and the individuals responsible. The following provides a comprehensive account of the investigative process, the evidence collected, and the subsequent arrests and charges that define the case. The first and most critical step in confirming foul play came through the post-mortem examination. Forensic pathologists conducted the autopsy and delivered their findings on November 5th, 2022. The results established conclusively that the cause of death was strangulation. This finding ruled out accidental drowning or other natural causes and confirmed that Townsend had been deliberately killed. The timeline of death was estimated between late evening on October 20th and early morning of October 21st, aligning with reports of her last known movements. These findings gave investigators a narrow window within which to focus their search for suspects, as well as the means by which she was killed. Investigators recovered a series of forensic materials from both the location where the body was discovered and from sites connected to Townsend's last known whereabouts. This included blood samples found on a towel retrieved from the scene, fingerprints taken from personal belongings and from vehicles associated with the suspect, DNA evidence obtained through swabs from items believed to have been in close contact with Townsend. These samples were critical for corroborating her presence at specific locations and linking potential suspects directly to the crime. Given Townsend's prominence as a social media figure and her active communication online, digital evidence played a significant role. Authorities examined phone records to map her last calls and messages, surveillance footage from areas in Hanover and St. James where she was reportedly seen, digital communications, including social media activity, to establish a timeline of her interactions in the hours leading up to her death. This digital trail helped establish her meeting with a known associate on the night of October 20th, narrowing the list of possible suspects. Additional physical evidence was secured from key locations. A guest house in St. James where Townsend was believed to have spent time with her companion on the night of October 20th. A vehicle belonging to Rushane Patterson, which yielded further trace evidence that supported the sequence of events described by investigators. This combination of forensic, digital, and physical evidence allowed law enforcement to build a clear picture of Townsend's final hours. The evidence quickly pointed toward one primary suspect, Rushane Patterson, also known as Chizzie. Investigators confirmed through intelligence operations that Patterson had picked Townsend up in Montego Bay, taken her to a restaurant in Hanover, and later accompanied her to a guest house in St. James. Intelligence reports indicated that a confrontation occurred at some point during this time, leading to her strangulation. Additionally, authorities identified a second individual with knowledge of the crime, Rowan Earlyby Rose, a 47-year-old security guard. While Rose was not accused of direct involvement in the killing, investigators alleged he had knowledge of the incident but failed to report it, constituting a criminal offense under Jamaican law. Through surveillance, intelligence gathering, and forensic analysis, Patterson and Rose were officially linked to the case. On November 2nd, 2022, following an intelligence-driven operation, police arrested Patterson. His capture came after coordinated efforts across multiple divisions, as law enforcement monitored his movements and pieced together the evidence trail connecting him to Townsend's final hours. Following his arrest, investigators finalized their case against him. On November 11th, 2022, Patterson was formally charged with murder. The charge was based on the autopsy confirming strangulation, physical evidence recovered from the guest house in his vehicle, and corroborating digital data. According to prosecutors, Patterson had accompanied Townsend during her final evening and was the last known person to be with her before her death. The state alleged that he strangled Townsend during a confrontation, making him directly responsible for her killing. While Patterson faced the primary charge of murder, a parallel case developed around Rowan Earlyby Rose. Authorities charged Rose with misprision of felony, a legal term that refers to the deliberate concealment of knowledge of crime without reporting it to the proper authorities. Investigators claimed that Rose had knowledge of Townsend's murder, but failed to disclose it, which hindered the investigation in its early stages. The charge did not accuse Rose of participating in the killing itself, but rather of failing in his duty to inform the authorities of what he knew. This legal action underscored the seriousness with which Jamaican law treats both direct perpetrators of violent crime and those who may aid them indirectly by withholding crucial information. The arrest of Patterson and Rose marked a turning point in the investigation. With Patterson formally charged, prosecutors now had a case that combined forensic evidence, witness statements, and technological data to support the murder allegation. Meanwhile, the charge against Rose highlighted the broader accountability net cast by law enforcement, ensuring that individuals who obstruct or conceal criminal activity also face legal consequences. Together, these developments demonstrated how investigators relied on a combination of scientific evidence, intelligence operations, and traditional police work to move from the discovery of a body to the identification and prosecution of suspects. The discovery of Aneka Slickianna, Townsend's body in October 2022, was followed by an investigation that quickly identified Rushane Chizzie Patterson as the primary suspect. His arrest and subsequent charge of murder shifted the focus of the case from initial shock to the slow and meticulous workings of Jamaica's judicial system.
The St. James Police have charged 33 years old Rushane Patterson, otherwise called Chizzie, who is of a Harvey River, Hanover address, with the murder of 35-year-old social media influencer Aneka Townsend, otherwise called Kean or Slickianna. Miss Townsend's body was retrieved by the Marine Police in the waters in the Reading area of the parish of St. James on the morning of Friday, October 21st, 2022. A post-mortem examination that was conducted on her body on November 5th concluded that her death was caused by strangulation. The post-mortem estimates that Miss Townsend was killed at some time between the hours of 11 p.m. Thursday, October 20th and 9 a.m. October 21st. During the course of this investigation, a wealth of forensic, cyber forensic, and other technical evidence was collected. Following consultation with the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, the JCF Legal Services Division, Patterson was formally charged with murder this afternoon. The facts are that on Thursday, October 20th, Ms. Townsend traveled from Kingston to Montego Bay, where she was picked up by Patterson at approximately 7:30 p.m. During the course of the evening, they visited a restaurant in Hanover and a guest house in St. James. At some point in the night, an argument developed between them, which resulted in Ms. Townsend being strangled by Patterson and her body disposed. Additionally, a 47-year-old security guard, Mr. Rowan Rose, otherwise called Early B, has been charged with misprision of felony in relation to this same matter. Investigations are ongoing as it is suspected that Mr. Patterson may have been involved in other incidents similar to those for which he has been charged. As a result, detectives are appealing to the public for any information that may assist. Persons may contact the Montego Bay CIB at 876-684-908.
However, the proceedings that follow revealed not only the gravity of the allegations, but also the systemic hurdles and unexpected developments that reshaped the trajectory of the case. Following Patterson's arrest in November 2022, the matter was placed before the courts for mention. At the earliest stage, investigators confirmed they had compiled statements, forensic materials, and cyber-forensic data linking Patterson to Townsend's final hours. Despite this, the case did not move directly toward trial. By 2023, the court was informed that critical elements of the file, including the post-mortem report and DNA analysis, had not yet been submitted. These documents were essential for the prosecution to confirm cause of death, narrow the timeline, and establish the strength of forensic evidence against Patterson. Without them, the defense could argue that the evidence remained incomplete. The absence of these reports meant that the court could not proceed as expected, resulting in repeated mentions with no firm trial date set. This delay became the first in a series of adjournments. Each time the matter returned to court, the absence of outstanding reports forced rescheduling. The prosecution argued that forensic analysis was ongoing, while the defense emphasized that their client could not be held indefinitely without timely disclosure of evidence. The slow pace signaled a broader issue. Even in high-profile cases, investigative processes often lagged behind a demand for swift justice. Throughout 2023 and 2024, the case was marked by adjournment after adjournment. Judges, prosecutors, and defense attorneys repeatedly convened, but progress was stalled. The main points of contention were the delayed submission of the DNA report and the final post-mortem documentation. The defense team for Patterson used these delays to argue procedural unfairness, suggesting that the accused could not properly prepare without full disclosure. Prosecution, on the other hand, maintained that the delays were logistical and tied to completion of scientific testing that required specialized handling. Public interest in the case remained high, and each adjournment drew renewed attention to the slow pace of the justice system. By mid-2024, nearly 2 years after Townsend's death, the case had not yet advanced beyond preliminary stages. The repeated rescheduling frustrated both legal teams, but was unavoidable given the outstanding materials. The role of the security guard, Rowan Early B. Rose, also emerged during these proceedings. He was not charged with murder, but with misprision of felony, the legal term for knowing of a crime and failing to report it. His case was tied to the main matter, but progressed separately. Like Patterson's, it too was subject to adjournments as the court worked through the larger case file. By late 2024, the court finally sought to reset the timeline. After multiple mentions with little forward movement, the matter was scheduled for January 31st, 2025. This date was intended for full disclosure by the prosecution, ensuring that all outstanding reports, including the DNA and postmortem, would be turned over to the defense. Separately, the court scheduled the case of Rowan Rose for October 16, 2025. This indicated that while his charges were less severe, his legal fate was still dependent on the outcome of evidence tied to the main case. At this stage, nearly 2.5 years had passed since Townsend's death. with the accused still awaiting a clear trial date. The delays underscored a central challenge in Jamaica's court system. Cases often move at a slow pace, with scientific and procedural bottlenecks prolonging resolution. Amid these delays, a surprising development emerged concerning the health of the accused. In 2024, reports surfaced in court documents that Rushane Patterson was suffering from a life-threatening medical condition, suspected to be hemophilia, a rare disorder that affects the body's ability to clot blood. Defense attorneys argued that this condition made his incarceration dangerous and potentially fatal if not properly managed. They submitted bail applications citing medical grounds, noting that Patterson required specialized care. The prosecution opposed bail, maintaining that he remained a flight risk and a central figure in a high-profile murder case. Despite arguments from both sides, Patterson remained in custody, though with medical attention reportedly provided. The revelation of his condition, however, added another layer of complexity to the case. Not only did the prosecution face delays in evidence disclosure, but the court also had to address concerns about the accused's health while in detention. Just as the case appeared to be inching toward progress with new court dates set, it was suddenly and dramatically altered. On the morning of February 25, 2025, law enforcement officers carried out an operation in Hanover, where Patterson was residing on bail. During the operation, a confrontation occurred between him and the police. By the end of the encounter, Patterson was dead, reportedly shot during the exchange. The Jamaica Constabulary Force confirmed the incident, but details remained scarce. Almost immediately, the Independent Commission of Investigations in Deckham announced that it would launch a formal probe into the circumstances of a shooting. The commission was tasked with determining whether the police acted lawfully or whether excessive force had been used. Patterson's death presented a significant complication for the legal proceedings. As the sole individual charged with murder, his absence meant that the central case could no longer proceed in its original form. The prosecution faced a challenge of closing the file against him while redirecting attention to the secondary accused, Rowan Rose. Rose's charge of misprision of felony remained active, but without Patterson alive to stand trial, the murder case itself would never reach a formal conclusion. The death also raised new questions. What exactly transpired during the police operation? Was the shooting avoidable? Did Patterson's known health condition contribute to the circumstances of his final moments? In Deckham's investigation was expected to provide clarity, but until its findings were made public, uncertainty lingered. The death of the primary suspect, Rushane Chizzie Patterson, altered the direction of the case entirely. Patterson, who had been charged with the murder of Aneka's Slickianna Townsend, was awaiting his trial after several delays in the court system. On February 25, 2025, before his case could be resolved, he was fatally shot during a confrontation with police in Hanover. With his death, the murder trial against him could not proceed, leaving key questions unanswered and creating uncertainty in how justice would ultimately be delivered. With Patterson no longer alive to face trial, the focus of the legal proceedings shifted to another individual tied to the case, security guard Rowan, Early B. Rose. Rose had been charged with misprision of felony, meaning he was accused of knowing about the murder but failing to report it to authorities. While his charge was not for committing the murder directly, it still placed him at the center of what remains of the judicial process. Rose's next court date was scheduled for October 16, 2025. The case also highlighted significant issues within the Jamaican justice system. Patterson's trial had been delayed multiple times due to incomplete forensic reports and postponed submissions of post-mortem and DNA evidence. These delays extended the case far beyond its expected timeline. By the time Patterson was killed, more than 2 years had passed since Townsend's death, and a full trial had still not begun. These systemic shortcomings became a central issue raised by observers, who questioned how the slow pace of proceedings may have denied the family and the public a timely resolution. The murder of Aneka Townsend sparked a large reaction across Jamaica and among her followers worldwide. As a public figure known widely through social media under the name Slickianna, her death quickly gained international attention. Tributes flooded platforms such as Instagram, TikTok, and X, formerly Twitter, where followers and acquaintances highlighted her influence as a fashion and lifestyle personality. Her image and videos continued to circulate, reinforcing the reach of her online presence even after her death. Beyond tributes, there was also a public call to action. Hashtags including #ForeverSlick and #JusticeForWomen were widely used across platforms. These digital campaigns were not only tributes, but also pointed to broader social issues, emphasizing concerns about gender-based violence and the safety of women in Jamaica. Online petitions circulated, demanding legislative reform and stronger measures against violence targeting women. Activists and community leaders amplified these demands, arguing that cases like Townsend's highlighted the urgent need for systemic change. Protests and discussions in both digital and physical spaces followed, with citizens demanding accountability from both the police and the courts. The public response ensured that the case remained in the media spotlight long after the initial discovery of Townsend's body. Even as the legal proceedings stalled and Patterson later died, the conversation continued, reflecting the enduring impact her case had on public discourse. Although significant developments occurred, several critical questions remained unresolved. First, investigators never fully established what sparked the fatal confrontation between Townsend and Patterson. Reports confirmed they met on the evening of October 20th, 2022, and traveled together to a restaurant and later a guest house. A post-mortem revealed she had been strangled, but no clear motive was presented publicly. Without a trial, no official explanation for the killing was placed on record. Second, the possibility of additional accomplices remains a matter of speculation. While Patterson was charged with the murder and Rose with misprision of felony, some question whether others may have been directly or indirectly involved. No other individuals have been charged to date, leaving the extent of involvement unresolved. Third, there's a matter of systemic delays. The justice system took over 2 years to prepare for trial, with multiple adjournments caused by missing forensic reports. This raised the question of whether more efficient case management could have delivered answers to Townsend's family sooner. The delays not only prolonged the legal process, but also left open the possibility that justice would never be seen through to its conclusion, as ultimately occurred when Patterson was killed before trial. Finally, the question of reforms lingers. While the public demanded stronger protections, reforms to address court delays, forensic backlogs, and the handling of gender-based crimes have not yet been fully implemented. Whether Townsend's case will be a catalyst for meaningful change or simply another example of systemic shortcomings remains uncertain. Aneka Slickianna, Townsend is remembered as more than the victim of a crime. To her followers and her family, she was a mother, daughter, and an influential public figure. Her brand as a social media personality continues to resonate, with her online accounts still visible to the public. Her name has become tied not only to her fashion and lifestyle content, but also to the discussion sparked by her death. Her case has come to symbolize the issue of violence against women in Jamaica. Townsend's death is not viewed in isolation, but as part of a wider pattern of gender-based violence that has been the focus of both public outrage and policy debate. As a well-known influencer, her case received more attention than many others, but also drew focus to victims whose stories may not have been as widely publicized. The public campaigns and activism linked to her death continue to fuel conversations about policing, justice delays, and the protection of women. Calls for legislative reform, increased police accountability, and more robust social protections for women have been directly tied to the awareness created by her case. The Townsend case exposed multiple flaws in Jamaica's criminal justice system. From investigative challenges to repeated trial delays, the process highlighted how systemic weaknesses can prevent timely resolution of serious crimes. The death of the accused before trial further revealed the fragility of justice when cases remain unresolved for long periods. Townsend's case is therefore more than a single instance of violent crime. It is an example of how flaws in investigative and judicial systems, combined with broader societal issues such as gender-based violence, can converge to leave families and communities without closure. The story of Aneka Slickianna, Townsend does not end with the death of her accused killer. The legal proceedings remain incomplete. The full truth of what happened on October 20th, 2022 is still unclear, and systemic issues that shape the outcome are unresolved. While her memory continues to live on through tributes and digital campaigns, her case also stands as a reminder of the gaps in justice and protection that persist. At present, her legacy exists in two parallel forms: as a remembered influencer whose presence shaped online spaces, and as a symbol in the ongoing discussion about violence against women and the reform of Jamaica's justice system. Her story remains unfinished, but its impact continues to influence public conversation and demand for change. If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek justice and explore the truth. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.